Hello, good day. Let's start this new lesson for Unreal Engine 5.7.2.
Good day. Welcome to a new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. So I have decided to make some changes in my game. The game will be open world. It will be a third-person action adventure game. However, I'm taking into consideration that there can be different styles. For example, there can be a weapon class with guns and a class with melee weapons rather than guns. And in fact, there are many open world games like this. So from now, the series will continue, yes, and it will cover a lot of different systems, such as advanced locomotion, an inventory system, enemy AI, an open world map, missions, and much more. So the next thing I will have to work on will be the locomotion. So the previous work performed will not be lost work. All the previous work can still be used. However, what I will do is start a new project. So let's get started. So this is Unreal Engine here. What I'll do is start by creating a new project. If you go to here, you can see these are my past projects. I will go to here, go to games and select third person. I want to mention that I am doing this development in Unreal Engine 5.7. Now, well, actually, I'm using Unreal Engine 5.7.4. Unreal Engine 5.8 has been released, but I'm not using that as yet because, I mean, there's a potential for there to be some bugs and errors. I'll wait a while before I start using that because I want, when I'm using Unreal, maybe 5.8, that there's no errors and bugs and so forth. So I'll just rename this project and I'll call this Action Adventure. Call this project Action Adventure. Here's where you're supposed to type in the name for the project. So this is the default window for Unreal Engine. So I have everything here. This is the content draw. So let's go put a type in. This is all the third-person blueprints. The blueprint for the character, game mode, player controller. Then we can open this. They should have all the input mappings. So a new blueprint open and it's not docked in the main window. Let me address this. So I'll close off this. Edit. Editor preferences. Asset editor open location. Change from default to main window. Close off this. And now all blueprints supposed to appear in this new tab here. Yeah. So that's just something I do with every project. I'll close off this. So now let's just import the asset path into here. So this is the folder with the asset pack. I'll just drag this into Unreal. So what I'll do, I'll go to Unreal Engine. So let's go back to content. We'll create a new folder. I will call this RPG character. I'm just calling this folder RPG character to make a distinction from this folder here. What happens is that when I already get everything I want and I already have no use for this again, I'll just delete this. I'll go back into this folder. I'll create a new folder. Call this animations. I can open it up and I'll drag the FBX files into here. drag these animation files. What I'll do, I'll go by animations. I need to import this skeleton. I need to select this skeleton. I'll type SK mannequin. That's this one here. Then click import. Import all the animations. And this is important because just now I've tried to import the animations, and after everything was imported, the animations were not playing. So I mean something was wrong. I think I didn't download, I didn't select the skeleton, so this is skeleton here. But let's open up one. And yes, this is working. So this is the Queen mannequin. You can always go to the preview settings here, the preview panel, and change from Queen to Mani. But I mean, right now it doesn't really make a difference because this is working. So you'll save this. We can close off this because you're not ready for this yet. You can go back here. You can create a new folder, and you'll call this new folder Locomotions. So what I'll do, I'll take these two animations, idle break and a walk stop, and I'll drag these two animations into here. Move here. Reason why I'm doing that because when I'm creating the locomotions, I'll use some of the default template animations to create this. I'll create a new folder. I'll call this new folder crouch. And guess what will go in the crouch folder? These two animations. So let's go in the locomotions folder, right click, go to animations, go to legacy, and go to blend space 1D. So we will create the blend space 1D. For the skeleton, we make sure we select the default mannequin. So you might be wondering, what is a blend space 1D? Think of the blend space 1D like a timeline. It's a timeline, and you can transition from one animation to another when there's a change in some value or there's a change in some parameter. Now, frequently, the parameter that I use to transition between the animations in the blend space is the speed. So if a character is in idle, they will play the idle animation because the speed is at 0. But if the character starts to move, let's say the character starts to walk and so forth, they will transition from the idle animation into the walking or running animation, because when they start to walk, their speed will start to increase. And as the speed increases, this can be used as a parameter to move from the idle animation to the running animation. Now we selected blend space 1D, but there's also a blend space 2D. So when you select the blend space 1D, you're only moving in one direction, and that direction will, of course, this will be the x-axis, and the dimension is the speed. But it is also possible to have blend space 2D. So you go to animations, you go to blend space. This will be the blend space 2D. But we're not using this blend space 2D here, we're using blend space 1D. So let's rename this locomotion blend space 1D. And let's open it up. So now we can go to here, the horizontal axis, click this triangle here and open it up. So we want this to be the timeline for the speed. So we're naming this speed. The minimum axis value will be 0. The maximum axis value will be 600. Why? Because the maximum speed of the default character in Unreal, third-person character in Unreal, is 600. To verify this, what we'll do, we'll go back to the content draw. We'll go to characters here. Remember, I didn't delete this. We go to characters. I think we'll go to third person and blueprints. Yes, so go to third person and blueprints. And then if we go to the viewport, we go to the character movement, and we need to look down, go down here. So this panel here is the details panel here. We need to scroll down, and you can see max walk speed is 600. So that's how we know for certain that is the speed, the max speed. So we will put that max speed here. So when the character is at 0, they will play the idle animation. And when the character starts to move and starts to run and the speed reaches 600, they will run, they will transition from the idle animation into the running animation. Now let's go and get our idle animation. So type in place. So I had to look for the animations that I want to use for the character here. Now I'm using Unreal Engine 5.7.4. Now to find the animations, go to content, go to characters, then mannequins, then anims, then unarmed. For the idle, select idle. And I'll select I'll type idle. Select this, put this here. Then for the walk, I want to put this, use this one, MF unarmed walk. No, that's backward. MF unarmed walked forward. So what I'll do, type MF underscore unarmed walk forward. So this is forward right, this is forward left, and this is just forward. So I'll select this, I'll drag this midway. And then I need to get the jog. So I'll go to here, unarmed jog. So to be MF unarmed jog forward. Let me see if I could drag this here. Yes, I could just drag this here. And to see the transition, what I'll do on the keyboard, I'll hold on Control and just drag the mouse across. So it's walking, now running. So this is working. I'll save. And we can close this off here. So now what we need to do is create an animation blueprint. So we'll go to content, RPG character, animations, right click, select animation blueprint. You need to, so anytime you're creating an animation blueprint, you need to select a skeleton that you're creating it for. So in this case, it will be SK mannequin. I'm seeing it here. You want to select this one, the Unreal 5 one. Select create. We call this ABP animation blueprint underscore RPG character. Double click and open it up. So the first thing we'll do is create a new state machine. So you right click, type state machine. Select this, we call this locomotion. We can connect this here now, but this locomotion will go into main. But for now, let's leave it like this. I'll compile and save. So let's double click and open this up. So a state machine is essentially a framework that you can put all your animations in. So what we should do here is drag from here. So you put your cursor between the smaller box and the larger box. So you drag from here and create a state. And you call this state idle. So you can double click and open this up. And you can select this. So we are here, we're in the idle state. Click here to go to the asset browser. And you will select, well, you'll type idle brick. That's this one here. That's the animation we imported. Connect this like this. If you want to align the two, select the two, highlight the two nodes, then press Q. Can compile and you can save. Then you can come out of idle. Oh, I just remember we're supposed to loop the idle animation. So if you go back into here, select the idle break, I need to look for loop and select this loop animation and make sure you save this thing. Well, compile and save. And now we can come out of this. So from idle, we could drag from here and create a new state. This state will be walk/run. Open it up. So as you will know from previous videos, what we need to do is to put in a locomotion blend space, which we previously created. So I'll just drag this across, connect this, and align this with Q. So the speed needs to be a variable. I like to give my variables a question mark. So to be speed question mark, I'll compile and save. The reason why the speed needs to be a variable because you need to get some information about the character's velocity. So the speed is really the character's velocity, you know. They need to get some information from the character. The information we need to get from the character is the velocity. That will be the speed, and the speed will tell you whether or not to transition from the idle state into the, let's say, running state then. Now we can come out of the run state and we can create the transition rule. So I'll double click and open this up. For the transition rule, it needs to be the speed. So we get the speed here, get the speed, and it needs to be greater than 0. So once the speed is greater than 0, we can transition into the running state. So I'll just align this, compile, and save. And now we can come out of this. So the next state we'll create will be a stop. So drag from here, add state, and just type stop. Now we could transition straight from the walk run state to the, let's say, the final state. But I mean, having a stop state will be better than just having transitioning straight from the walk run state to the idle state. It will make the animation look more natural. So we have the stop state, double click and open this up. So for the animation for here, you'll just type stop. It will be the walk stop. You drag it in, connect it, compile, we'll save. So now we can come out of this, we can press this button here, and we can have the transition rule. So to transition from this, you can double click here. The variable you need to have is the speed. So get the speed here, and we can type if the speed is less than a particular value. So if the speed is less than, let's say, less than 0, less than or equal to 0, then you should please stop animation. So let's type less than. So let's, rather than put less than equal to 0, let's say 0.01. So let's align everything. So let's make speed a little faster. 0.5. I mean, there's no, if the max speed is 500 and you're talking about if you want the speed to be less than 0.5, I mean, that is still close to 0. So anyhow, take it, once you reach there at that area, it will play the stop animation. We'll compile and we'll save. Now we can come out of here. Now from stop, we can go back to idle. So what I'll do, I'll make this look better in terms of the design. So I'll drag this like this. So make it like somewhat of a triangle. So you can have a rule. You can make this automatic. Automatic meaning that once the stop animation finish play, you can just automatically go back into the idle state. So I'll look for automatic. Automatic here. Yes. Compile and save. Compile and save. So now that we have made this configuration, what we'll do is go back to the anim graph and we need to save this locomotion. So drag from this and type save new cache pose, and I'll call this main locomotion. Compile and I'll save. So I can mention one time that anytime you create a state machine, like how we did with locomotion, and you want to save it, you can save it in a cache pose. And this is advantageous because what will happen, you can create multiple locomotions and then you can all connect them together as you see fit. So let's say we create a locomotion for the rifle. So the only difference between the locomotion for the default and the rifle maybe might be let's say you'll be holding the rifle. So what you'll have to do is that you will play, you don't have to create all the states. What you'll do is that you just need to create the states for holding the rifle. And what you can do, you could use a layered blend per bone or by bone. And what you'll be doing, you'll be blending the top half of the player's or character's body with the bottom half of the player's body. The bottom half will come from the main locomotion, and the top half will come from whatever new state or new locomotion that you created, and you could just work with it. So I mean, essentially this eases up your work. So I mean, it is advantageous to create a state machine and then save it into a new cache pose. So let's create a new locomotion. So type state machine, select this one. Given this consideration, I'll call this one main. So I'll rename the one up here. I'll just call this locomotion for now. If I think of a better name for this locomotion, I'll change it accordingly. But for now, I'll just call this locomotion. I'll compile and I'll save. And then I'll go into here. Before I do the configuration into here, what I'll do, I will connect this. I will need to connect this into this. This main will have multiple locomotions, saved locomotions in it. But to connect the two, I'll need to create a default slot. Why I need to create a default slot? Because anytime you want to play like an animation montage, you will need to have a default slot. And the animation montage will be like, let's say you want to do a shooting, a attack, a special attack, or different special attacks. All this will be implemented through animation montages. So what I'll do, I'll just right click and type default slot. That's this. I'll connect this here, connect this here, highlight everything and press Q. Then I'll go into this. I'll compile. Because I created this, so it's not compiling. I'll close off this. It's not compiling because of this. That's why it's not compiling. So I could just save in the meantime. Let's save here. Double click and open up this. So what we'll do is just drag from here, create a state, call this unarmed locomotion, and we need to pass the cached state into here. So you could drag from here and type cached, use cached post locomotion. I'll just highlight everything and press Q. You can compile and you can save now. Go backwards. So let me just quickly explain what I just did here. So when I go into this state here, we have local cache pose of locomotion. So if we go back into the main, go back into the item graph here, and if we go back into this locomotion here, this entire state machine with all these different states, idle, walk around, stop, everything here is now attached to this output animation pose here. So rather than going from here and then going on arm locomotion and then creating these three states and connecting into here, we just pull our reference to the cache, the saved locomotion and connect right here. So it's just more efficient to do things like this. And then I'll compile and I'll save. So right about now, it's about time. Let's start to work on the come out of this. You're back in your name graph here. All right. So now it's time to work on the variable, the speed. Configure this variable speed here. So let's go to the event graph. So what we can do here is we have this node here, try get port owner. We are basically making a reference to whoever is using this animation blueprint. whoever is using this animation blueprint, you'll get a velocity. So type get velocity. So if our main character is using this animation blueprint, we'll be getting the velocity of our main character. So the next thing we'll do is connect the speed. So we'll drag the speed here and set the speed. But you can't connect this directly here into here. If you look at the nodes here, this is yellow and this is green. So this will not connect automatically. So what we need to do, we need to have a node kind of make a transition. So we'll drag from here and get vector length. Type vector length. So this will be converting this into a float. And then you can connect this here. Then you can connect this. This will make it start. Then you can compile and then you can save. So now let's put in the animation in our character here. So this is the blueprint for our third-person character. We could create a blueprint or we could use the default one. In fact, let's use the default one because if we create a blueprint from scratch, we have to create the input mappings. And that'll just be extra work. So what I'll do here is that we are in the viewport for the default third-person character, and I will change the animation blueprint. So what I'll do, I'll select this, and for the animation blueprint, I'll change from this, and I'll select this one, ABP RPG character. That's the blueprint we created. I'll compile, I'll save. You can go to level, you can press play. It's working. It's looking almost identical to the default one with Unreal because we are using the same animations, but it's working. And what I like is that when he heads turn, the character head is turning also. So this is very good. So now let's go back into the animation blueprint and you can go back into main. So this, we just go in the anime graph here. We need to go into main. So we see on armed here, we can now work on the jump locomotion. So what we can do, we can right click, add a state, we call the state jump, and then we can open this up. We need to find the jump. So I need to find the appropriate jump. You can select this one here, jump, and just connect this. Note we didn't have to do it like this. We can just delete this. We can just take it and drag this here, and it will automatically be connected. You could do something one-on-one way in programming. Can compile and can save. Make sure to always save in Unreal because Unreal Engine have a tendency to crash. Now you can come out the jump and let's drag the jump a little bit up. Drag from here, create a state and call the state fallen. Double click and open it up. We can add the fallen animation. So this will be this. So I'll do the way I now showed you. Connect this here. So that's the fallen animation. This animation has to be looped. So we want to make sure this is selected and then click loop animation, save. Can't compile it. So now we can come out of here. So you can drag from here and you'll create a state alias. You'll call this one to fallen. So a state alias in Unreal Engine is a special node or a special state machine that allows you to transition into a state from multiple other states without drawing lines from every single one of them. So essentially, it acts as a shortcut to keep your state machine clean, organized, and more readable. What I'll do, I'll just drag this here, connect it to. I'll delete this, select this. So I have this selected. I'll click this, meaning that you can transition from the unarmed locomotion to this state to fallen. So rather than having to draw that arrows and so forth, you can just select this and click the box here. For the transition rule, you can double click and open this up. You need to create a new variable. You call this variable is fallen. So you go across here, press the plus button and type is fallen. This variable will be a boolean. So if you are fallen, this will be the condition to transition into the jumping state or not. So if you are, so just make this, yeah, organize. Still can't do this yet. Nevertheless, I could save and you can do the same. You can do the same for this animation here. Can connect this, can open this, plug the same variable. If you are fallen, this is the condition to transition to the animation. Can't compile, but we can save. So we'll do something different for this jump condition. Can open this up. You'll create a variable and we call this variable velocity. We can drag this here, get. This variable needs to be a vector. Can right click and split the pin. Still can't compile, but we could save. So what we'll do for the velocity, we'll drag from here. The velocity is the z-axis is the up and down axis. So we'll drag from here, and if something is greater than, let's put a random value, let's say about 100. We'll drag from here, type and boolean. So what we'll do from here, we'll just connect this, and we'll break this. So if something, the velocity, which is the up-down vector, is greater than 100, and if they are falling, then we can transition into this state. So that's the two conditions to transition to the state. And save. So go back to the here, the anim graph. For this transition, this will be an automatic rule. Double click this to open. All right, cool. This is an automatic rule. Can save. So now let's go here, right click, and create a new state alias. This will be called to land. This will be able to go to land from falling and from jumping. We can save. So what we'll do, drag from here and create a state. This state will be the land animation. So double click and open the land, then type land, select the land and drag this here. Highlight everything, press Q to align everything. Still can't compile it, but we could save. So now go back out here for the transition. The double click and go in. Is fallen, can drag off from here, get is fallen, and this must be a not. So we get a not boolean. So if you are not fallen, we can go ahead and play the land animation. Compile, and now we can save. And now we can come out of this. Now we can connect the land here. Just bring across this node a bit. Just bring this in. Then you can select this node and select automatic rule-based transition. This means that after this animation has finished played, we can now transition into the unarmed locomotion. Then we can compile, then we could save. Now the next thing we need to do is to go into the event graph and we need to set the velocity. Well, this velocity that we created, so dragging this, set the velocity. We'll connect the velocity like here. We will connect the velocity into here. Just double click and create a reroute node. Just to make this a bit organized. Compile and save. Then I'll right click here and type event blueprint initialize. This one, event blueprint initialize animation. This node, event blueprint initialize animation, is like an event begin play for the animation blueprint. So what I'll do here, I'll duplicate this node, press Ctrl D, drag this here, and we want to cast the third person character. So drag from here, cast to third person character, can connect this, make sure compile and save. Then what we will do, we'll drag from here and we promote this to a variable. The reason why we are promoting this to a variable is because we now could access, once we have the third person character as a variable, we can now access all different parameters that our character has. So I'll call this variable character. So I think in between character and character ref, but right now I'll just call this character with a question mark. So I know it's the character. The question mark will make me know this is a variable. So now what we'll do, we'll drag the character here, this variable, which is being referenced to our main character. And we can drag from here and character movement. Get character movement. Now we can drag from here and we can get is fallen. So now we can select the variable created, the is fallen variable, set is fallen, and now we can just connect this right here. So we see how we are populating the variables. We're creating the variables and then we're putting functions in the variables. Compile and save. You know what? Let's put some comments. So I'll drag this across here. Press C. Type is fallen. Drag this here. Type C. Get speed and velocity. Compile and save. Now, if you go to level and you press play, you have the character here. If you jump, well, this is working actually. So you have to address this sliding movement here. So you go back to the character blueprint. Need to go to the, well, we're in event graph here. Let's go to the RM graph. Put a main. Go to the RM graph here. If we go into land, this animation here is an additive animation. So what you need to do from here is drag from here and type apply additive. So an additive animation is one that plays on top of another animation. So what you need to do is take control, drag this here. So you move this into the additive space here. And for the base, we need to use the cache locomotion. So right click and type cache this locomotion here. So you realize this is something like, let's say, layered blend per bone. So you can compile, we can save, we can go to level, can press play, you can jump. Okay, something is going wrong here. I'll go back to here, come out of this. We need to go to here, make sure the priority order here is 2. Compile and save. Okay, so I see this error here, right? This error is resulting because the animation blueprint is using mmlan in place that expects an additive animation, but mmlan is a normal full body animation. So we need to find where mmlan is being used, and if it's an additive node, aim offset or layered additive setup, remove it from there. So use mmlan as a normal additive animation instead. Okay, so I'll close off this. Need to go back to the blueprint, go into land, and I'll use it as a normal animation. So delete this and just connect this. Compile, save, go into here, press play. All right, so it's working normal. But it still has this kind of sliding when you jump. I have to use layered blend per bone. So I'll address this. So the node I have to use is layered blend per bone. So right click, type layered, blend per bone, connect this, connect this, connect this. For the layer setup, open up here, open index, okay, bone name will be spine 2. To verify the bone name, I need to find the skeleton. So what I'll do, I'll go to here, double click over the skeleton here, need to find spine 02. So I'll select this, need to copy the bone name, spine 02, go back to the animation blueprint, Control V, spine 02. So that's it here. I'll compile, I'll save. Then I'll go back to level, I'll press play. All right, so it's working now. So I solved that problem. So this is the basics of our animation. So if you click here, you could walk, run, jump, plain jumping animation, and we could land. So this is working. We could add crouching, but watching this video length is getting longer. So I mean, what I'll do, I'll end the video here, and I'll work on the crouching in the next video.
That is it for this lecture. Do you want to learn more? Like and subscribe. You can also contact us, Impulse Response Enterprises Limited.